In the heart of the old town stood a decrepit mansion, long abandoned and forgotten by time. The townsfolk spoke of it only in hushed tones, referring to it as the House of Echoes. It was said that the house had a life of its own, that it whispered to those brave, or foolish, enough to enter. One crisp autumn evening, a group of friends, eager for a thrill, decided to explore the mansion. They laughed as they crossed the creaking threshold, their voices echoing off the dusty walls. The air inside was thick with a musty odor, and the light from their flashlights barely penetrated the dense darkness. As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the atmosphere grew heavier, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy silence. Then, the whispers began. At first, they were faint, like the rustle of leaves on a distant breeze. But as the group pressed on, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. They were voices, many voices, murmuring just out of comprehension. It was as if the house itself was speaking, its walls alive with the echoes of those who had come before. One of the friends, Emily, felt a chill run down her spine. She turned to the others, her voice trembling. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" asked Mark, the group's self-appointed leader, his bravado fading as he looked around nervously. "The voices. They're getting closer." The group exchanged uneasy glances. They tried to laugh it off, but the fear in their eyes was unmistakable. They decided to leave, but as they turned back towards the entrance, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The air felt charged, as if the very fabric of reality was beginning to tear. Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The friends screamed, their flashlights flickering before plunging them into darkness. The whispers rose to a crescendo, filling the room with a cacophony of voices, pleading, crying, screaming. In the chaos, Emily felt something brush against her arm. She screamed and spun around, but there was nothing there. The whispers were all around them now, pressing in from every direction. It was as if the house was alive, feeding on their fear. Mark shouted for everyone to stay close, but his voice was drowned out by the rising din. The air was thick with a cold, oppressive force, and the walls seemed to pulse with a dark energy. Then, one by one, the friends were separated, pulled into the shadows by unseen hands. Emily found herself alone in a dark hallway. The whispers were louder than ever, so close that she could feel the breath of the voices on her skin. Panic gripped her as she stumbled forward, desperately searching for an exit. But the house had no intention of letting her go. The walls seemed to shift and close in around her, the floor beneath her feet creaking and groaning as if alive. The whispers grew louder, now a deafening roar in her ears. Suddenly, a door appeared at the end of the hallway, bathed in a faint, sickly light. Emily ran towards it, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached out for the door, her fingers brushing the cold wood. But just as she was about to push it open, the door slammed shut with a force that knocked her to the ground. The whisper stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. Emily lay on the floor, gasping for breath, her mind racing. Then, she heard it, a single, clear voice cutting through the silence. It was soft, almost gentle, but there was something horribly wrong with it. The voice was speaking to her, calling her name. Emily. She scrambled to her feet, her back pressed against the wall as she looked around frantically. There was no one there, but the voice was unmistakable. Emily. It was closer now, just behind her. She spun around, but saw only darkness. The voice was inside her head, whispering secrets she could not understand, filling her with a terror unlike anything she had ever known. The walls began to close in, the ceiling lowering as the room shrank around her. The voice grew louder, more insistent, until it was all she could hear, all she could think of. And then, with a final, blood-curdling scream, the walls closed in completely, and the mansion fell silent once more. Days later, the townsfolk whispered of the group that had entered the mansion and never returned. Some claimed to hear their screams on the wind, others said the whispers had grown louder, more insistent. But no one dared enter the House of Echoes again, for it was said that the mansion was alive, feeding on the souls of those who were foolish enough to disturb its eternal slumber.